Hi everyone, just from Metalchaos Studio here. Today I'll be painting a Tabletop World Barrel. So I'll show you my basic technique for painting wood. These are the color I'm gonna use. Reaper MSP paint and Vallejo Model Colors. So we have muddy brown, flat brown from Vallejo. This is a out of production color called a Lone Star Leather from Reaper. English Uniform, some shade from Citadel, Agrax Earth Shade, Ginger Cookie. This is also a color that is out of production. Cork Brown, Leather Brown, and Tusk Ivory from Reaper. As a wet palette, I'm using a ice cream container plastic cap and a parchment paper. I put some water and then a piece of parchment paper. So it's basically all I need. And I already primed the barrel with black primer, and I did a light gray zenithal primer on it. Also, I'll be using a Citadel shade medium brush, and I'll start with a base coat of muddy brown. So I apply a first coat of muddy brown all over the model, since it's all made of wood. I just saw there is no lid on this barrel. There is a grain or something inside, so it will be interesting. I want to paint the barrel evenly, so I push down the blue tap to have access to all the surfaces. What's nice about the black primer is that you don't have to worry about all the cracks, and it will look natural even if there is no paint everywhere. The important is to cover the gray primer at least. Right, so everything seems to be painted. Clean my brush with water between each color. Alright, so the paint seems to be dry, so I'll go with a dry brush. For the next color, I'm gonna paint half of the barrel with Vallejo color and the other half with Reaper. So I'll be using English Uniform and Lone Star Leather. I won't need much paint to do this, so I'm just putting a tad of paint in the corner of my wet palette that's not wet, so it will be easier to do a dry brush. As you can see, the colors are very similar, maybe a little darker on for the Reaper MSP. So this is my very first video. If you like it and would like to see more, you can subscribe and like. So you go very gently at first to adjust the pressure and leave just some color. If you press too hard, you may make a stain, or it won't be as nice. So take your time. This piece is very small, so I follow the opposite. I go like the opposite way of the texture. So I will deposit the paint just at the surface. Sometimes it's not possible because the way the model is made. I'll show you later how I do. Like, okay, I can show you now. I go this way, but very, very lightly, so with the side of the brush, so the brush won't go in the cracks. You see, I don't cover all the muddy brown color, but almost. So I'm almost done half of the barrel. It's not something that needs to be very precise, but at least you need to take your time and not push too hard on the brush. I'll go with the Vallejo color. This paint is a little more liquid because the bottle is new. The other one I have it for a while, so it's thicker. So see, I follow the grain, but with the side of the brush, not the tip. And you can, it's with the tip, it's easier to go the opposite direction. It's almost like a glaze because it's not so dry. And I won't put dry brush everywhere, so I will leave a spot here. It will be darker because later we'll do even more dry brush with other colors, and it will give the barrel an interesting color. That's it. I leave this to dry. Okay, so while the paint was drying, I cleaned my brush, and now I will apply some shade, Citadel shades, the Agrax Earth shade. So I applied that shade everywhere. It will cover the base coat color, change it a little, but we don't mind because later on we're gonna do the final dry brush. I will put a link in the description below for my, if some of you would like to follow me on Facebook or Instagram. I've been painting for a while, but I just recently started to publish my work on social media, like 2 or 3 years ago. Painting. So don't hesitate to leave me comments about the video or my painting technique, or if you have any question. You may have noticed I changed my brush for shading. I'm using a beat up Army Painter brush. It's a base coating brush, but I like to use it for shading. A moment later, when the ink is dry, we can start the highlight. For the highlight, I'll use a Reaper MSP ginger cookie and Vallejo cork brown. I'll do half of the barrel with each color. So again, I'm using an old brush and I start very slowly. About half of the barrel. Here I'm using ginger cookie. It's a beige color. On the other side, I'm gonna use cork brown from Vallejo. Side by side, you can see the color are a little different. So if you are creating a diorama or you want to make your barrel more interesting, it's always fun to have two colors. You can put the lighter color on the side where the light comes from. Or you can paint everything the same color as well. Don't really mind touching the metal parts and the grain inside the barrel, because I'll paint everything once I'm done with the wood. So you see, you can go both ways. Parallel or perpendicular to the grain. But when I go perpendicular, I use the tip of the brush, and parallel I use the side of the brush. there is really not much paint left on the brush now. So I go around and I apply some more. That's it. And finally, to put some color in the wood, color variation, you can use a different color. Like I like to use leather brown from Reaper, and for the final highlight I like to use Tusk Ivory. I think this color is out of production now, but any similar creamy ivory color would do. So anywhere you think the highlight is too bright, you can stain the barrel with a darker color. So let's say I want to create some color variation around here. I really think this makes all the difference. You see, not much. It's not something you need to do if it's a tabletop. Element, like if you are playing D&D or other games and you're using those as a decor, but if you want to push it a little farther, it's always fun to add different colors. I will clean my brush and let's go for the final highlight. Start very lightly at the edge of the barrel, for example, very lightly. And you don't need to put it everywhere. Then you can choose an area where you would like to have more highlight. These final steps really bring the grain of the wood out. Go on this side and then the opposite side. There's no real reason for that. I think it's the chaotic part of painting, like random. I don't even try to make it perfect. I just go on and that's it. I think we're done for the, it's a really basic, no stain, no nothing really special about that. Okay, I decided to go a little farther on the barrel, and I will paint the grain inside. So I just used ginger cookie color, and I use a brush with it's a 0 size Princeton, and the tip is it's like it's a new brush, so it will be easy to go in the corner without touching the barrel. So I will just cover the entire surface like with this color. It's a very grainy surface, so you may need to add water to your paint, so the paint will go in all the cracks and holes. But don't put too much, because otherwise it's gonna flow and it may touch the barrel itself. When you follow an edge like that, you use the side of the brush and don't try to touch, just go along the edge. It will be easier to apply the paint without touching. Okay, now we'll wait for the paint to dry. Okay, earlier I mentioned that I was using ink, but in fact I'm using shades. There's a difference. The shade won't act like the ink, so sorry about that. I'm using shade, and in fact on the grain I'll be using another color, Seraphim Sepia. It's another shade from Citadel. So I'm using a lot of those. I like it because it's fast and it brings out all the details. So now that the paint is dry, I'll apply some shade. I always start slowly and add more. This way I won't make a mess. It's a better way to control the quantity you put on. And here I don't need to put too much, like that. It's already enough. It will look like oat or some cereal, I don't know. So now we wait until it's dry. Now that the shade is dry, I will apply a very light ivory dry brush. I'm barely touching the surface, and I'm not gonna apply this dry brush everywhere, just the highest points, just like that. That's enough. Finally, for the metallic parts, I will take two approach. I will cover everything in dragon black color, and then I'm gonna use muddy brown to prepare the surface. On some area I'm gonna use a pumpkin orange from Reaper. I think it's a out of production color. It's a light orange color, and on another part of the metal I'm gonna use rust liquid pigment from Green Stuff World. I'll be using a brush with a good tip. So it will be easier not to touch the wooden parts. Take my time, I paint one side this way, and then I turn the barrel around and paint the underside. I always hold my hand together like that, so I'm in contact with the surface. It's much easier than being floating around like that. You need a little brush control to do this. It gets easier with time. There's no rush. Okay, so I'll paint all of the metallic circles with this color, dragon black. Okay, so I'm currently painting the second metallic ring, and I will make a mistake to show you a technique I use when I paint something I don't wish to paint. So I drop my brush, I take a clean brush, put some water on it, and erase. Sorry about that. Just erase it right away. See? So this way I don't have to paint everything again. Clean my brush on the towel, paper towel. That's it. No mistake. Alright, so I painted the metallic ring, and now we're gonna apply some rust. Now we're gonna create a rust effect with paint and liquid pigment. I'm gonna be using a different brush this time. That's a Reaper 50 Pro Paint Sable brush. Gently all around. This will be like the base color. It will help the orange paint and the rust effect come out. Okay, so I've applied brown on the four metallic circles. Now I'm gonna apply pumpkin orange on the two first metallic circles. I'm using the same technique, the side of my brush, and gently touch the surface. If ever you think that it's not enough, you can apply more. Sometimes I mix some red, some yellow, depending on the intensity of the rust you want to create. Mistake. Magic brush. No more mistake. So yeah, it feels like the orange is not coming out that much, so it will be even worse directly on black. So what I like to do is add some more. Just like that. Doesn't mean to be even all over. Yeah, again, that's an old brush, so the bristles are all damaged, and it makes this applying the paint like that much easier. Okay, we'll go like that. Liquid pigments are much more fluid than paint, so I'm not putting it on the wet palette, but instead on a dry spot on my parchment paper. Put some on the brush. Now you want to go very slowly at first, because you'll see it's very liquid. What is nice with the liquid pigment is that you can make stains and it will flow much more easily. Okay, so now we'll leave it to dry and come back in a minute. So again, I changed my brush for a very pointy tip. I will mix some paint and some pigments together and try to create a stain on the wood. I had some liquid pigment. Okay, so that's it for my very first video. I hope you enjoy. Please like and subscribe, and keep on painting, and take care.